Good morning, and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Good Morning Minute, where we start the day with purpose, passion, and a little bit of power. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and today's conversation is part of a special series in partnership with the Empower Her Steps virtual conference, a movement rooted in helping women rise, heal, and walk boldly into the life God has designed for them. Our mission is simple but powerful, empowering life's purpose, because we believe when a woman finds clarity in her calling, everything changes for her family, her community, and the generations to come. So friends, grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to be uplifted as we dive into real stories, honest lessons, and bold steps towards purpose with our guest today. And our guest is Coach Gerald. Hello, Gerald. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Wonderful. Well, we're excited to get to know you a little bit better through our conversation. But before we do so, would you like to just share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
I'd be happy to. Well, my name is Coach Gerald. I'm the founder of RunRev Coaching. It's a faith-based coaching organization that's aimed at helping those who are suffering with mental health issues such as grief and depression to work through their issues with physical activity and faith-based support and encouragement. I started coaching about 2 years ago, and I made the decision about a year ago now that this is where I wanted to focus my coaching on because I was raised as a Christian home, raised with some amazing parents. And in 2011, breast cancer took my mom's life, and it sent me into a massive spiral. And about a year later, I found running, and it drastically changed my life. And between running and faith, it was such a powerful movement to me. Running gave me back so much that I wanted to give back to others. And I'm also a ordained minister, and the RunRev Coaching gets its name because when I first started going online, I was a runner, I was a reverend, and so I made a nod to a 1980s icon and nicknamed myself RunRev Collins.
Oh, how wonderful. And so I'm interested in learning more about your story because, the loss of a parent is hard. I've experienced that. I've lost both my parents at an early age. I was probably, by the time my dad passed away, and my mom passed away, I was about 28 years old. So I feel like I was just in the cusp of starting my adulthood, and I lost my
Yeah.
parents. So it's hard. It is, especially when it's unexpected, or even when it is expected, like you see the deterioration of life. I totally understand that. Um, so, Coach, I am going to start with asking you a icebreaker question, and so something fun just to kind of get us going. Um, what kind of theme song would today have um, for you?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I trying to think what is, but basically it would be busy, busy, busy.
Okay,
My
okay.
theme song would be about just basically keeping busy. It's fake, and also it had to would for me my theme song. I can't think of an actual song, but it has to throw in the fact that, well, one that just comes to mind is he ain't never done nothing but good. He ain't never done me nothing but good. And it's like growing up, I've had struggles in my life. I've had struggles, but even though I'm busy now, the one truth and the one constant in my life has been God and my faith, and knowing that it was all going to be okay. And when I struggled the most with my mental health is when I forgot that. I wasn't paying attention to that. And my life has always been, it's like someone asked me recently what my favorite verse was, and I looked at Romans 12:1, and it ties me together because it's talking about all the people who came before us, but it's talking about the great Hall of Fame. But in my case, especially, my whole family was really faith-based, and I have all that to fall back on, and I've seen things God's doing. But sometimes we forget, and that's with me. But at the same time, right now, I'm busy being active. I'm a full-time employee working as a clinical laboratory scientist, working as a running coach, working as a father, a husband. I keep pretty busy, and some days I don't know how I get it all done. But with God on my side, I'd learn what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I just hearing you, I think the song that comes to mind, and it's an old one, but it's still a favorite of mine, is the Dolly Parton 9 to 5. So, to
Yes.
get up in the morning, and it is just that like fast beat, I got this to do, I got that to do.
Yes.
And so that's what came to mind as you're describing, your theme song. So, all right, well, let's jump into the heart of our conversation. And I'm just going to ask you, Coach, what was the defining moment of pain or challenge in your life, and how did it impact you?
Honestly, one of the greatest impacts, I didn't even realize at the time how great of an impact it was going to have, was the loss of my mother. It was My mom had first had breast cancer about 17 years prior to her passing, and she was in remission for close to 17 years, and then it reared its ugly head again, and she was dealing with it for probably 15 months, and she was going through chemotherapy. Her tumor markers were dropping, and so it looked like from the outside that she was going to win this fight.
Mhm.
And she went in for her chemotherapy on Wednesday. They sent her to the ER. Unbeknownst to me, she met with hospice on Thursday. She notified me on Friday that they were done with chemotherapy and she was in hospice care. By Saturday, she was only able to speak maybe 5 or 6 word sentences. By Sunday, she was down to 1 or 2, maybe 3 word sentences. And then by Monday, she was catatonic. So I went from having a mother who was vibrant, a very active part of my life, and then within less than a week's time, she was gone. And she was not only my mother, she was also my biggest supporter of my ministry. She was my singing partner before she got married to my father. She was a semi professional country western singer. So I spent my entire childhood and my adult life singing with her. So one of the things that always brought me joy was music. I'm I'm a musician, a musical person. I love music. However, I lost my singing partner, music just reminded me of what I'd lost. So music became something that was hard to get joy out of because almost every song I would do reminded me of what I'd lost. And I had no idea just how impactful that would be. I went into a deep depression. I'd struggled most of my adult life with depression, but I just was at a point where I would literally day to day was going through the motions. I was miserable. I was miserable to be around. I was short tempered. And about a year after my mother passed, my wife looked at me and says, "Honey, I love you, and I love you so dearly, but I can't stand you. And if you don't find something to deal with this grief, then I'm going to take our daughter and I'm out of here because I can't stand living with you like this." And honestly, she was right. It was a wake up call for me because even though I could see and feel that I was just in a dark room, so to speak, of my life, there was no joy anymore. That was
Mhm.
the wake up call of the revelation I needed to, hey, I've got to do something. And for me, personally, it was something of, well, I've always thought about running a race. So I made the off the cuff decision to train to run a mile, then to train to run a 5K. It was just supposed to be a one and done thing. It was just supposed to be something to just give me something to do. And in some ways, to get my wife off my back, if I'm being honest, but it was something I wanted to do. And I never dreamed how much being outside, seeing the sunrises, hearing the birds, and just the joy of finding something to focus on brought
Mhm.
peace and brought joy to the life. And then by being outside, especially in those early days, I was able to spend some time focusing on God, focusing on prayer. And so it just became something where I'd look outside and I could just enjoy the beauty of what was created. I could just the fresh air was helping to build the mood. And then getting entwined in my local running community, I found people that to connect with. I wasn't stuck in my house anymore. I wasn't just stuck in my own little world. I had a reason to get out, a reason to find a world around me that still existed and to interact with it. And along the way, I found that I loved running, and what was supposed to be one and done has turned into pretty much a part of who I am now. And so combining that physical activity with the faith just totally transformed. But that I had no idea that something so simple as just getting outside would be so transformative to my life.
I love your story, Coach. I just, man, When we as coaches or counselors, and we talk about, get outside, ground yourself, touch the grass, just breathe in the air, let the sun shine on you. It sounds almost like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But it's an amazing way to reconnect. And what it sounds like is, in your grief, you kind of withdrew and just kind of went inward with yourself, that you disconnected, and then just to be reminded of how much life is out there by this simple idea of running. Now, you'll never catch me running because I'm just not a fan, but I like to walk. I like to walk. Um, and I did a 5K. I walked it, but I still did a 5K. But there's something just about being outside and just, I don't know, just, it is so freeing, and your mind can just be at peace and relaxed. And I know, working with children in the child welfare system, a lot of them are runners, and some of them like to run away, but we're like, hey, let's channel that into something that will really benefit you. And a lot of them, I mean, they find activities and sports, and running, becoming cross country runners or whatever, very therapeutic. And so I'm
Yes.
glad that you're talking about this, because that's what I'm seeing in your own story, is that understanding this other type of therapy helped you in the healing moments that you needed. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, what was it like when you started to discover, like, hey, this is bringing me back to life, it's reviving me? What was that like?
It was freeing. I mean, the best way I can describe it, because I think by that point I already had a decent amount of cognitive behavior therapy. So I understood the value and had those skills, but it was just so mood lifting. It's like just seeing the it just sounds like you said, it sounds so simple. Just getting outside and seeing the sunrise basically made me feel joy again. It made me find some just amazing peace. And a lot of times you notice when I talk about it, I'm a run coach and I like running, but I'm also a lot of it's my physical activity, because walking is just as good. It really doesn't have to be running. It just has to be something physical, or just get outside. I tell people, if you don't feel like doing anything else, take 5 minutes and walk down to the end of your street and back. But for me, it was so freeing, and I never will forget the very moment I ran my first mile. It was just like you thought I'd won the lottery, because I was just so exhilarated, so happy to be able to do something. And now looking back, I'm like, I hope I never lose that joy. But it's like, I just ran 13 miles this weekend, and I'm thinking 13 years ago, I was just so exhilarated to run a mile. And now I'm running 13 miles and learning the fact that there's things I thought were impossible that now are possible. And that was one of the things that was freeing, was I'm beginning to understand that things that I thought I couldn't do, things that I thought that just is never going to change, began to see and things that were changing. And just spending that time in meditation and prayer and spending the time outside, I started to see the light, if you will, at the tunnel. The world didn't look so dark anymore. There seemed to be peace and joy again. And I never dreamed something as just simple as getting outside and running would bring so much joy, but it did.
Hmm. And so, in as you're discovering this kind of rebirth of joy in your life, and peace, and just some tranquility, amongst the grief that you're suffering through, when did you decide, what, I think I can help others through this newfound idea? When did you start sensing the purpose behind your pain?
Probably, I would say it started becoming an idea in me about 2020, 2021, because I'd had enough experience under my belt. And I've always been a person who enjoyed helping others, enjoyed teaching others. I mean, I taught the Bible school at church for about 10 years. I find that I learn the most when I'm teaching others. But probably about 2021, I realized that running had given me so much for almost 10 years that I wanted to find a way to give back. And I got an opportunity to join an ambassadorship with the running company that I fell in love with their style and their training program, and joined them as ambassadors and got a chance to spend some time on Zoom calls with the company owners. And then they opened up the door to their coaching certification. And that was about 2022. And I went, this is a great way for me to give back to the running community. It's given so much to me. I love helping others. I love coaching. I love seeing other people succeed. It's kind of brings me so much joy just when other people make something happens that they achieve something they thought they couldn't, or they find that, hey, I didn't think I could run anymore, or I didn't think I'd enjoy this, and helping them find that joy. And so I said, well, let's get this certification program going on. And then that was when I really went full in and got my first client and realized just how exhilarating it is to help others. It's like it really does make. I honestly, I think at this point, I'd almost rather skip my own run to help someone get their run going.
That's beautiful. And I mean, man, because I'm there too, like discovery, just the discovery in purpose through your own healing. Um, it's so exhilarating that I mean, you can't help but want to share, with
Yes.
others like this idea because I I like this because it's a way of us taking, what has worked for us and sharing it with the world and understanding too. I mean, and this is why you have so many counselors and coaches and things like that, because
Yes,
it's not a cookie cutter situation.
exactly.
You're going to find something that works for you, and understanding that there's several different ways to get to that healing in your life, and just to be open to it, and looking around, and it's okay. And for us that are in similar fields, to be uplifting of one another, and being able to say, you know what, I know someone that can help you out, because I know it's not my niche, but I do know someone, and let me introduce you to coach. And so I love this, because I think you're the first that I've interviewed that actually is applying more physical activities in a therapeutic way. And I love this. I think to me it's new, and it's also something that um, in my current field we're looking at, because some kids don't want to sit down and talk. Some kids don't want to sit down and talk about goals and things like that. They just want to get moving, and in that they can start releasing some of that grief that they're storing up, and whatever it is that they're struggling through. So I love that about your story and just your journey, and the things that you've created. So you talk about being faith-based as well. So what is there a scripture, or is there a quote, or is there something that you really leaned on as you began to build this coaching program?
For me, it's when I've like I said, I've been raised in the church, been a Christian since I was 9 years old, and when I started reading scripture, like Paul would basically say, we race for endurance, or we all everyone runs the race, and we run for the crown. It started taking on whole new meanings when I began doing endurance events. I moved from the 5K to the 10K to the marathon, and those scriptures took on a whole new meaning because now I had a physical aspect of what endurance was. I knew what it was to run long distances. I knew what Paul was really referring to. And so the scriptures that, yeah, I understood those before, but now I got them. Now they took on a whole new meaning because I had run with endurance. Now I knew what he was talking about running with endurance in the spiritual sense. And so that
Mm-hmm.
physical element began to influence the spiritual element. And honestly, it took me a while to open up and decide this was going to be a faith based organization. But I realized there's people out there who need that, who are looking for that. And one of my friends asked me recently to kind of pick a verse that sort of summarized where I was at, and that's why I picked the Romans 12:1, because it starts off by saying that we look to those behind the people before us, the pillars of faith, the fathers of faith. And for me, that's kind of not only in my family's faith, but the faith you see from the scriptures, and also the faith and the people that help support me and encourage me when I first went into this running journey. I have all that to lean on. But then he goes on to basically say that we can run with endurance. we set aside the sins and the snares that so easily beset us. Basically, just like a runner, we're constantly looking for ways to, especially if you're a long distance runner, you're looking for ways to get rid of at least a little bit of weight or get that least a little bit of advantage to get those few extra minutes. Because a lot of times in races, especially, the winner can be determined by just how well they take their nutrition or the hydration. And something as simple as not getting enough sleep the night before the race can influence the race. And a lot of times with our faith-based organization, faith as well, I've learned that it's usually not the big things that weigh us down, it's the little things that we allow to sit around. It's we allow to dwell upon the things that we worry about. And instead of going, okay, what am I worrying about that I can actively change? So if I can't actively do anything about it, then just sort of looking to God and dwelling upon the promises that I'll take care of it. Because realistically, especially when dealing with anxiety, if we can't do anything to change it, well, what are we still worrying about it? Because worries are not going to get us anywhere. We kind of have to just go, okay, if I can't do anything and I can't change anything in myself or the environment around me, then I'm just going to, as a faith-based, have to put it to God and go, okay, God, I can't change anything, so I'm just going to leave it in your hands and trust that you'll take care of it. And a lot of times, then that's something I learned in running too. Sometimes you just gotta trust the process. You gotta trust that the training was there, and you may not necessarily feel like you're going to have the best race available, but you gotta trust that the training and the support you did before then will take care of you on race day. And it's I found that they're very well intertwined.
And it's so true. And there's an intertwine in it. And so I want to highlight a couple of things that you said here. So trust the process, because everything is a process, and even your healing journey, friends that are listening, that is something that is ongoing. It's not a linear process, and I've said it before, but it is an ups and downs and twists and turns and loops and all those things, because you could be operating just fine for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden something reminds you of your lost one, or that grief, and it just hits you. And that's okay too, because that is part of the healing journey, is being able to recognize. It's when we aren't aware that those things are happening and we let it consume us, that it's affecting our daily living. Like, that's when we need to build an awareness and understand, oh, you know what, the flowers are blooming today. And I remember my mother used to always have fragrant flowers, in the house, and that smell just kind of reminded me of her. So it's okay to honor the memories. It's okay to be there, but no, live in it. And that's why it's important to tap into resources, much like this program, Coach, that you're highlighting. But also, too, another important factor is tapping into something that you believe in. And, for us, those that are believers and Christians, we tap into that side of things. I know it's for me, but don't be turned off or scared of something that is faith-based, because from what I've learned in working with faith-based organizations, is it's not the religion. It's not about pushing a religion or, that. It's about connecting you to your belief system. And we ask that it be God, but it's okay if it's just like, hey, this scripture or this quote is something that has really motivated me and really just clung to my spirit. And it's given me the motivation to make a change. And that's really what we're looking for, is just something that you can believe in,
Yes.
something that you have faith in. So I think that was beautiful how you said it all there. So Coach, let me ask you, what happens when you run into someone, or maybe there's someone out there listening that is just kind of like, okay, that's great for you. You found it. But I don't know if it's going to work for me. I'm in this place of yuck and mess and in between. What kind of suggestions or advice would you give that person listening?
First thing I'll give is something that someone told me, and I believe it with all my heart, and that is, if you're in that place, start with something simple. Start with a simple gratitude journal. Each day, just write down 3 things that happened that day that you're grateful for. And it sounds simple, but it's amazing how that begins to change your focus off of all the negative things happening in your life. And you begin to see the positive things in your life. And the reality is in life, what we look for, we find. And if we're looking for things that are going wrong, if we're looking for all the struggles in our life, we're going to find them. But if we begin looking for even small things of, hey, I'm thankful that today my car tires weren't flat when I went to work. I mean, it doesn't have to be this big thing. It can be so simple as something, anything good that happened in your life, and start there. And if you're looking to have physical activity be part of your life, I don't expect anyone is going to just get up this morning and go out and run 3 miles. Start off small. Start off literally find 5 minutes and just give yourself 5 minutes a day to either do your gratitude journal, go out and walk outside on the walking path, ride your bike, 5 minutes talking to your best friend, 5 minutes reading a book that you enjoy. Just take something small and carve out something that you enjoy out of your life every day and give that 5 minutes. And over time, you'll find that 5 minutes, it sounds small, but 5 minutes over the course of 7 days is a half an hour. If you make that 10 minutes, which after 2 or 3 weeks, you can increase that to 10 minutes, you've just spent 70 minutes, which is over an hour a week that you are using to actively focus in on something positive. You don't get to the big things. Like I finally got to a marathon, but you don't get there by doing the big things first. You get there by taking it one step at a time. You take
Mm-hmm.
one little thing and then you add on to that and then you add on to that. And then before too long, you turn around and you're going, how did I get here? It's because you took the small steps.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I like that too. So that's a big thing too. Don't think just because you can't get up in the morning, put on your sneakers and hit the three miles that it's no good for you. No, it's every step. And I love that the way you just picture that there in your words is one little step, second little step equals miles and miles of accomplishment. And that's where the big gains come from, are the little steps that you invest in yourself. So thank you so much, Coach, for that. So, Coach, what does living with purpose look like for you now?
For me, it looks like one, finding a way to share my story with people in my life. That's why I love these podcasts. That's why I love my coaching ministry, because it allows me to share that with others. But it's also for me leaning back into my faith. It's showing people what purpose and love looks like. It's basically getting up every day and looking for those positive things. Like I've done the gratitude journal myself, and it changes your attitude because you begin to look for ways, especially when you go, especially if you go to work, put yourself a reminder at the end of the day, say, I'm going to find one thing from one coworker today that I'm going to give them a positive word for. And it's amazing how when you begin throughout your day looking for things to thank people for or to give praise for, you begin seeing the positives in things. And so for me, living with a purpose and with passion is about finding ways to show care and compassion, and also getting being willing to talk about the fact that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have mental health struggles. You're going to have days that you're not okay. And I see so often people, they'll ask you, well, how are you today? And everybody says, I'm good. Well, I've been a firm advocate for a long time, even before I started this, of if I'm not good, I'll say, okay, or it's not a good day. And be okay with being willing to say that today's not a good day, because some days it's not. And it's also a good way to find out who your real support network is, because you pay attention to those. You find out who's really listening, because the people that are really there to support you will go, oh, it's not. Do you want to talk about it? Those are the people you want to surround yourself with, the people that are willing to be there and really listen, not just say the platitudes of how are you today? Because if they're asking and they really care, they'll really listen.
Mm. And that's true, because a lot of us will go default to the generic answer of, yeah, I'm fine. But are you really? Because those that are in your circle and understand you, they're going to watch that body language. They're going to watch how you
Yep.
said that word, and then they're going to inquire for more. So community resources, those are your go-to. It's not a weakness to ask for help. It's actually a strength
Nope.
for sure. So, Coach, as we get ready to kind of just close out our conversation, I do want to ask you a question of legacy and impact. If today were your last day, what would you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered that I was loving and kind to everyone. It's kind of like the same impact my mother and my father had on my life. They're people to this day even still talk about how much they could talk to them about anything, they could come to them with anything. And that's what I want my legacy to be. I want my legacy to be that I lived my life in such a way that people felt comfortable talking to me about anything and everything. We may not agree, but I want them to feel comfortable that even if we disagree, that I was respectful and I listened to their opinion and that we could have mutual caring as human beings, not fight or feud over the small things, but that I loved everyone where they were at, who they were, and the way they were.
Love it. And so my final question, Coach, to you is if you could leave maybe a word of truth or encouragement with someone out there listening who's still trying to figure out what their purpose is, what would it be?
Your purpose, they may not know their purpose, but the best way to find your purpose is just start doing things. Honestly, find something that you think you'll enjoy and put yourself into it. Take a leap. I know it's scary. I know especially when you're in the midst of a depression and mental health issues, it's scary being around other people, but make that leap. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, you're not worse off than you were when you started. Matter of fact, you learned that that's not something I don't really want to do. So you can try something else. But you're never going to find your purpose if you don't at least try. If you don't at least try to open some doors, try to do something. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It is a message that my mentor told me, and I stand by it. Fail fast. You're better off just taking action and doing something. And if it doesn't work out, you at least tried versus standing around going, well, I wish I would have tried something. Well, try something.
Love it. Well, Coach, let's say somebody's out there listening and they're like, you know what? I really want to connect with Coach. I think he's got the niche that I'm looking for. It's different. How do they connect with you outside this podcast?
They could email me at gerald@runrevcoaching.com, or they can find me on my website the simplest way. It's www.runrev.coaching.com. On there, they'll find some more information about me. There's a contact form on there, and there's even a page listing all of my local events, any group runs or activities. So that's the best way to reach me is through there.
Wonderful. And if you didn't catch it on the podcast, it's okay. Look at the post because I'll have it there too, friends. Coach Gerald, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your heart, your story, and your light with us today. It's conversations like this that remind us that purpose is not about perfection. It's about showing up and growing through the things that we go through and trusting every step matters. Here at the Good Morning Minute and through the Empower Her Steps movement, we believe every woman has a calling worth discovering and a voice worth using. So friends, wherever you are today, remember, your purpose is powerful and you're not walking alone. So until next time, keep rising, keep trusting, keep walking boldly into the life God has designed for you. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.